Welcome to the Tudor Dixon Podcast. As you all know, and as you've all seen over the past few weeks, the Democrat Party is changing, and not all Democrats are eager to accept those changes. But it's weird because it seems like if you step away, and I don't mean step away from the party completely, but I'm saying if you step away from those radical ideals, you get this intense reaction. And my guest today, former district attorney of Harris County, Texas, Kim Ogg, is one of those people that has experienced some of that blowback from just stepping away from some of the Democrat ideals. Welcome, former district attorney. We're so pleased to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I think your topic is relevant, and a lot of people feel exactly like you stated, that the party's moved away from common sense and things that we all used to agree on that weren't considered partisan, such as crime.
It's interesting because this morning I was on Newsmax and they were playing a clip from one of the national TV shows. And this woman said, I have been a Democrat my entire life, a lifelong Democrat. And, you know, this is decades of being a Democrat. And I have seen the party change. And she said, I identify with Bernie Sanders, and anyone who doesn't is not a Democrat. And I was shocked. I thought, wait, what? That's the change. Wouldn't you say that's the change?
I would say that the last democratic socialist that we read about in history was in Germany, in pre-war Germany, and that this concept that the government is supposed to provide everything for us is wrong. What the government is supposed to provide, and what we all used to agree on, is public safety. That we need to be able to go to the store without getting robbed, that we need to allow kids to be able to play in our yards, that kind of thing. What we see under bad democratic policies related to public safety are cashless bail and thousands of murders that just don't have to happen. And that's the murders. There's a lot of rapes and robberies. When people are out on bond and they have no skin in the game, their mother's house isn't up, we're not seeing trials for years and years, you get mayhem in the neighborhood. And I find that regular people, including Democrats, don't want to live next to a murderer or a rapist on cashless bail. They think that person should be in jail, held pre-trial with a quick trial. And that's how things should be. And that's how they used to be. And it's been a huge shock to me as a district attorney in the fourth largest jurisdiction in the country to watch Democrats in control of some of our major urban areas, including Houston, go to this pro-crime agenda and act as though victims are the villains.
Oh, yes.
And the criminals are the good guys. That's just not the way it is.
That has shocked me, the protection for the criminal. And I will say, on both sides, I've seen these weird changes in certain people in the parties as well. And there seems to be, I don't know if it's the improvement or the invention of social media. I don't know what it is, but there is this desire to be personally famous in politics, which I think is a terrible situation. And I think we've seen that to me has been what's pulled the Democrats to the socialist side. You had AOC, you have Bernie Sanders who started it. You've got Mamdani now who is out there, and they are like these characters that people just want to follow. And even Marjorie Taylor Greene on our side, I heard her the other day on Megyn Kelly's show saying that she is mad because Speaker Johnson should have kept the House in session during the government shutdown because they could have been passing bills. And I thought, that's bizarre to me that that's your focus when you don't have the actual fundamentals of government are not there. You're not funding law enforcement. You're not funding our military. You're not, you get to the point where you start to have the fundamentals of government used as a weapon against the people to get what you want politically. And I feel like that is what we are seeing right now in the United States of America. It's shocking to me, but having you on here from Texas, it is really shocking to me because you were involved, you were the district attorney when the Jocelyn Nungaray case first came out. Is that correct?
I was, and I have become close to the family. There is a new victims' rights group that is formed not just around this case, but around thousands of murders that occurred. During my 8-year 2 terms, we filed more than 3,500 murders. Just imagine the math. That's more than one a day. So I met not just Jocelyn Nungare's family after her incredibly horrible death and murder, but I met thousands of other families in the same position. And these are not statistics. These are people's brothers, mothers, husbands, wives, children. It didn't have to happen. It doesn't have to keep happening. Criminal justice in the age of DNA and the internet and so many technological advances, almost any crime can be solved. What's weird is that people don't seem to want to solve them. Some people in the Democratic Party and some people in power who act more like social influencers than real leaders.
Yes.
Because it takes guts to stand up against the inevitable criticism that you receive online. My thought is, online doesn't vote. Either does do huge contributions by people like George Soros. People vote. And it's people that we're supposed to be serving in government. And the first duty of government is to keep us safe. So we are failing, I think, in this country, and it's the political system that's failing us. And that's just going to require people getting off their phones, being involved, knowing who their judges, DAs, local government is, not just the folks we elect to Congress.
Well, that has been something that we on the Republican side have just started to sadly just started to figure out. These prosecutors, the district attorneys, we need to be aware of their ideology, because you have stated, and I want to mention this, you have stated that it is not a partisan position. However, it has become a partisan position. Why has it become a partisan position? I mean, the law is the law, right? It's like math. It either is or it isn't.
I say that all the time. The law is a simple math problem. You apply the law to the facts, and there's either sufficient evidence for somebody to be held in jail and convicted, or there's not. So you're correct. It was never intended to be partisan. Yet we've seen leftist Democrats throw race into the conversation, which is like gasoline on fire, because we do have a divide in the country between black and brown and white, but we don't disagree and never really disagreed over protecting ourselves and our family and our expectation that law enforcement would do that. And when race was injected, especially during the George Floyd riots and protests, what we saw was a movement to defund police with no alternative option behind it, as though people were just going to stop robbing and raping and pillaging. And while I don't agree with what happened to George Floyd, I think that the murder conviction was valid based on the evidence that I read about. My thought is that you don't wipe out an entire system because somebody did something wrong or handled a situation inappropriately and someone died. That was terrible, but it doesn't mean you throw out the entire system. And so I think that the Democratic Socialists took advantage of the situation, and they really began trying to socially engineer local government in the big urban areas. And what I found was that people don't understand the justice system. It's an assembly line. You have cops, you have prosecutors, you have judges, you have jail, prison, probation, parole. They don't know who's responsible for what, but they don't want to be endangered by people who are violent and out on the street. And many in Houston, from our judges, elected local Democratic judges, allowed people out on 15 and 16 bonds. The absurdity of arresting somebody and then letting them out, arresting them and letting them out. They would let fugitives out that Crime Stoppers would put rewards out on so that we could catch them. And they would be out on a personal recognizance bond. This is unacceptable, but it took our public a long time to really understand it was judges doing this. They were democratically elected, and we saw correction during the 2024 elections. And I think we're going to see further corrections in 2026. I know that I'm supporting Republican candidates, and I'm still a Democrat on paper, but at the primary voting places as well. And this time I'm going to have to say the Republicans are offering a more common sense position on not just crime, but on many topics. And that's what's made me much more aligned with Republicans these days than with Democrats.
We've got more coming up with former District Attorney Kim Ogg. But if you're over 50, don't go anywhere, especially if you're worried about your heart health, because you need to listen to this. It's about nattokinase. You may not have heard about it before, but a 16-year study of over 30,000 people have found that nattokinase, an ancient Japanese superfood, can help reduce your heart attack risk and improve your cardiovascular health. It's the holidays. You want to stick around. You want to make sure you check this out, because Japan has the world's second longest life expectancy for a reason. They are using this powerful natural enzyme, and they've been using it for thousands of years. Now you can too with Luma Nutrition. They have perfected a powerful nattokinase formula made in the USA and third-party tested for purity and quality. Buy your supplements from a source you trust, and that's Luma Nutrition. They were founded by a former U.S. Army officer, and they are on a mission to provide the highest quality natural supplements made right here in the USA. And you can now try nattokinase for your heart today for up to 40% off when you visit lumanutrition.com. That's LUMA nutrition.com, lumanutrition.com for your heart health. Stick around, guys. We've got more after this. You said something earlier that all crimes can be solved with DNA. We have the ability to solve these crimes. So many states have a ton of unsolved crimes on their caseload. And if we look at just the state of Michigan, where I'm from, or the state of Illinois, where we see Chicago, we have a massive amount of unsolved crimes just in this Midwest area. And, we hear people saying, oh, the president doesn't need to send troops into, or National Guard into Chicago. But what about the people who have lost their family members and they have no closure, and they know those people are still out on the streets? And in Michigan, we don't have enough crime labs to do what you're saying. That's where you say, gosh, these are the things that politicians don't talk about, but they should talk about. Why aren't we capable of solving the crimes? It is not for lack of evidence. It's for lack of tools to analyze the evidence. And that's something I think we should be looking at as well.
Amen. It's funding. And that's where Republicans can really make a difference and make gains at the polls by funding the essentials in government and in law enforcement. And our DNA and crime labs are essential. We're underfunded here in Houston. I complained about it. I went to city council, I went to the commissioners, and you get a lot of lip service. Now, we have a mayor in Houston, another Democrat, treated much like I've been treated, as an outcast in the party, as somebody who, because we don't agree with every single thing that Bernie Sanders or AOC says, and by the way, I agree with very few of those things, if any, we're suddenly not good Democrats. And because of that, I said, you're right, I'm a bad Democrat, but I believe in law and order. We must fund our crime labs.
I have to argue they're not Democrats.
Tell me.
I mean, I don't think that AOC and Bernie Sanders are Democrats. I don't think that makes you bad if you, yes. If you don't agree with them, that doesn't make you a bad Democrat. That maybe makes you a real Democrat.
Well, let me tell you who is really fueling the fire. I think it's national and local media. We see a lot in print media of misinformation, deliberate misinformation, spins on things like bail reform, cashless bail reform, we hear is working just great. Well, I'm talking to hundreds of families each year who've lost, their loved ones in horrible ways, like Jocelyn's rape and murder here in Houston in June of 2024, some to illegal aliens, and this desire and promotion by the media to once again villainize ICE, to empathize with illegal immigrants. We're all for legal immigration. Our country's founded by immigrants, but we're for legal immigration. And we're all for helping people, but violent folks don't want to be helped. They need to be separated from our community. And I think that's the basics have just been lost by the Democratic Party, both nationally and locally. I think normal people will continue to make these corrections, and they are going to vote more Republican if crime continues and Democratic socialists continue to push this agenda of pro-criminal. I can't see it any other way. Open borders, pro-crime, bad policies that result in tragedies for ordinary families. It just isn't going to keep selling. And I think people have wised up to a lot of the media, and they're watching programs like yours.
Well, and I think what we're seeing with this defense of illegal immigration is interesting because, when Obama was in office, the Democrats were absolutely not for illegal immigration. He was considered the deporter in chief. They were supportive of that. They were supportive of immigration reform. I do know that. And I haven't heard that talked about in many, many years now. I would say it's shocking to me that I've heard all of this about like open borders, letting these people in, the humanitarian issue of allowing people to come in from other countries. But there has been no solution in we need more judges. We need more cases to come through. We need more opportunity for these people. And you have the people that do it right and they wait years for it. And then you have these people that come across the border. You pointed out that one of the murderers in the Jocelyn Nungare case had actually raped an American citizen in Costa Rica. And that was like exposing that truth was way too much for the Democrats.
Well, they really came after me. It's all an allegation until it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But a citizen did come forward and did identify one of the accused murderers in Jocelyn's case. And because we have a Soros DA who was promoted and defeated me in a primary, I've watched him dismiss case after case after case for political cronies, our public corruption prosecutions that we worked so hard to bring before the public, because nobody likes being cheated out of their tax dollars. We saw those being dismissed. We've seen a huge dismissal rate of violent offenders. And I was very concerned that other victims out there might be too disillusioned to come forward if there were other victims, that this woman who did come forward might feel abandoned. And so the public has a right to know just how dangerous the people they're dealing with in our justice system are. And it's true, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But I put together a committee that reviewed all of our capital murder cases in Harris County. And they felt there was sufficient evidence in the case to move forward for the death penalty. I announced we were going to seek the death penalty while I was DA. And literally a judge has threatened to hold me in contempt for announcing the death penalty, that we would seek it against these murderers, and for violating what he calls a gag order and what I call a violation of my First Amendment rights. They've even tried to silence the victim's mother and grandfather and family. And courts have no right to, in a free country, to limit the free speech of their child. They don't have the right to prevent free speech at all. But literally a Democratic judge, the Soros prosecutor, joined with the defense to hold me in contempt instead of pushing for trial against the murderers. It's an absurd situation. I was cleared by the State Bar of Texas a week ago, which I'm grateful to my lawyers for helping get that done. And we'll see what happens with this contempt action. It was based on the State Bar complaint, and so we intend to file a motion to dismiss. But let me tell you, it's no fun to be villainized as the chief law enforcement officer in the fourth biggest jurisdiction in the country for simply doing my job.
Well, and I think it's important for us to point out that this was a 12-year-old girl, a 12-year-old who was violently raped and murdered. And I cannot imagine, I have two 12-year-old daughters. I cannot imagine what that mother is still going through to this day. And to be told, to be villainized and to be told that you can't speak about it. What has this country come to if we get to the point where we say, you as the victim have no rights? It's shocking to me.
It is. And that's why we have to fight back. We need to elect people who want to do things, not be someone. We need real leadership in the country. And it's an opportunity for Republican candidates all across America to advance on common sense public safety issues where we simply agree that violent people should be separated. We're not making personal judgments. That's for the higher court. As we call God. But on earth, we have the laws of man. It's important they're enforced. That gives us an orderly society where people can make the greatest living in the world. It's the best country in the world. But if we lose control of our streets through bad democratic policies that have already failed, that they keep clinging to, then our country will fail. So I look forward to greater leadership out of the red team this time around. I think you're going to see corrections, and I want them to end this government shutdown, because the more we have people doing their jobs unpaid or facing criticism like they are at ICE and other places in the government for simply doing their job, it's not a popularity contest. Laws are passed by our government. We don't have to like them all. If you don't like them, change them. But do it the right way, not through defunding, through elections.
You've been a huge opponent, and you mentioned it too, ending cash bail. Give us some education on that, because I think people hear that, but if you've never been in a situation where you've needed cash bail or you know someone, you don't really know what that means. So what is the impact of ending that? What does it do to the country?
So this push by Democrats over the last 7 years to end bail entirely is one of the most bizarre platform positions I've seen any party take. It makes sense that if somebody commits a crime and they are captured and there's sufficient evidence to bring that case forward, that we would want to hold that violent person in custody until their case could be heard. And that's why we need funding. The labs are so important. And yet we had a push by the Democratic Party to end bail entirely, or just to let people out for free. No skin in the game whatsoever. That makes no sense, and it endangers everyone to have people who are charged with serious crimes let out with no deposit, no security that they will return to court, and no protection for their neighbors. If they're in custody, we at least know where they are, and we can try them. So the push for cashless bail is a senseless policy position. I fought against it because I saw the direct impact, which was a huge spike in crime. And that is probably the single biggest reason we've seen a spike in crime in urban areas in the country, because cashless bail was pushed by the Democrats in all the major areas through their prosecutors. I pushed back as a Democrat because it didn't make any sense, and it got a lot of people hurt and killed.
I know the state of Texas is very lucky to have you. I appreciate having you on the podcast today. I think it's rare that we see someone who's willing to come out and say, I am with this is my party, but I'm willing to cross the line for people who I think are doing the right thing. it is really, truly country over party. You look at it that way. I appreciate that. I wish we could see more people like that. Former District Attorney Kim Ogg, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks so much for bringing these issues to light. The public needs reporters, and they need people like you who will give time to an issue, let us explain it, and then let people decide for themselves.
Well, thank you. I
So
appreciate
good luck
that.
to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining the podcast. For this episode and others, go to TudorDixonPodcast.com, the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, or you can watch the whole video on YouTube or Rumble. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.